So thank you for having me first. I think this is my first time attending events that hosted by Human Fraternity, and there are mixed feelings for me as actors, civil society, and promotion of democracy and human rights in the regions. I guess it is my privilege to learn how the processes and then the opportunity ahead. And I guess it is much being appreciated by Indonesians because for the first time, the concept of the human fraternity come to the space of the many Indonesians, scholars, activists, governments, and many other sectors that are attending these 2 days events. For me, particularly, it is my great pleasure to see different perspective of peoples, different professions come here and learning about human fraternity. And then I think many people has been surprised and then equally delighted, where they only learned about the Western concepts, the UN's principles and many others agreements, but human fraternity came as an alternative and then likely can be workable in the current crisis, current situations, current challenges of democracy, human right, and humanity as well. So I've been hearing about human fraternity for years right now, since the first inception and agreements between the two religious leaders, the Pope of the late Pope Franciscans, and then the great Imam of the Al-Azhar's Mosque. But this is my first learning about the processes. And then there are two takeaways in here that I highlighted. First, human fraternity came as a streams, alternative way that people can look into beyond politics, beyond democracy and non-democratics, beyond the camps of the world powers. Secondly, the initiative came from the UAE. Let's say is close to many of the Asians. Let's see the Asian perspective. So it's bring new wave or new alternative leadership. So not only the concept of the human fraternity itself, but also led by the new, let's say, new powers that emerging, not only economic right now, but then again taking more roles in the world, humanity, peace, and then peace, and then futures. Let's say that we can see, that we can look it as a new way to looking the world order. So I think it's unite in the way to looking more perspective in respecting the human dignity, helping the poor, reducing the gaps, and then helping to finding the conflict resolutions in many countries in Asia. We all know the Asia is a fronts of the conflicts, internal conflicts, between the countries' conflicts, and even ideological conflicts. I think most of those problems is not because of the political differentiating. I think all Asian accepting about all that we can live in diversity, but then again, problem is occurs internally and then between the countries. So I think there is an interconnectivity and then relevancy between the role of the leaders that should be sensitizing by the empathy to ending any to lessening the gap for any possibility of conflict. And I think human fraternity can be stand in between, not only about religions but also intersectorals. I think this is the first thing that we need to look into, where human fraternity approach is actually providing a space not only about the state leaders, not about religious leaders, but also involvements of many stakeholders like academics, scholars, journalists, civil societies, and even minority groups. I think that what I am looking for these 2 days that I really respecting, the way they find a concept that can be moving together and then learning together without undermining others. I think we can see what happening in Southeast Asia recently with the Myanmar happenings and unsolved or probably never-ending solutions between the junta and then the rebels, where we can see Asian leaders cannot do much on that. But for the recent conflict on Cambodia and Thailand, I think I have to commending the roles that taken by Malaysian leaders that immediately providing space, bring everybody's, all conflicting parties to sitting down to talk about it, and then finally they come up with the good news. Ceasefire is something a blast, that's something which we need to celebrate things. And then I think if we can encouraging more things, interventions in the positive way among the Asian leaders, I think they can bring positive impact, reducing the conflicts, reducing the suffer of the peoples, because everywhere when the two conflicting parties started, peoples is being the ultimate victim from those two conflicts. ASEAN, I think, is the only workable unions, of course, incomparable with the African Union. But I think beyond that, beyond the UN, I think the Southeast Asian Nation Association is the one of the most solid, most workables to prevent conflict between two countries. But then again, there's a lot of things to do more, because handling conflict, not only talking about the two countries' conflict, internal conflicts, minority tensions, fighting poverties. There's a lot of things to do. But ASEAN have a very good grounds. They have a good charters, which is still respected by any others, except, of course, the interference within the countries. They have adequate bodies to discuss all aspects, including economic, social, political, cultural. I think it's grow, and a lot of people have a good faith in ASEAN, but then just need a good leaders. But of course, the leader who can say we're taking care of our regions with limiting the intervention of the global powers, because whatever happened in Asia, Southeast Asian particularly, is still very affected by the big brother of China and also another big brothers of Uncle Sam's. So both politics are still very much in interdependence with what guidance they provided. So I think the incidents of the Cambodian and Thailand's conflicts and many long-term experience of Asian leaders and actors should be able to draw the limits and also to limiting interventions of many global powers. And as a civil society organization operating in Asia, I really believe in the current global conflict, global shiftings, global powers changings, they're looking to Asia. Asia, one of the place where they need to put an investment, they need to rely on the economic powers, and of course the future peace and orders globally. So I have a good faith on human fraternity with the correct supports of the peoples, correct support, engaging correct governments and bringing more leadership on it. I think we should be proud if the UAE will take a lead, and I think Asia will giving full support for that initiative, because it's much more easy to understand, much more easy to accept in terms of our social, cultural, and political backgrounds. And then people knows the Middle East actually has been long-standing supporting social, economic, and cultural in Asia itself. I hope that can really giving perspective. But from the civil society perspective, we're still looking forward, because it is still minimum engagement of civil society that perhaps can be elevating, not only touch upon the governments, but of course civil society knows what are needed, how to efficiently working and operating on the ground. So the human fraternity will develop from the concept to the really action plan and then solution problems. A big civil society providing a very huge space and perspective in terms of the impact to the grassroots. Because sometimes government have a power, but the government have lack ability to penetrate things, to really understand the problems on the grounds. So civil society, community-based organizations, and then grassroots organization is really have that kind of skill and strengths, and then we really open for that. And then again, social movement. Social movement is something like standing alone, but then again with a good, let's say measure, good approach, I think the leadership of UAE can be more acceptable from all of us. I think that's the point.